Hey guys, welcome back. So recently I've been referring to ONI as an organisation that are sort of similar to the Illuminati, in that they're super secretive and they do loads of fucked up shit in the background, with their significant political power to try and keep their tracks covered. Now, although the resemblance is definitely there, a lot of you guys have pointed out that maybe they're more similar to something like the CIA, and you know what? You're right. So today, we are going to cover the closest thing that Halo has to the Illuminati, a secret organisation known as the Assembly. The Assembly are a secretive order of human-born AIs who refer to themselves as individual minds. Now, nobody knows where they came from, or who created them, or even where they are. All we know is that they're supposedly human in origin, with some maybe theorising that they're smart AIs, like Cortana, and therefore were created from the brain of an actual human. As far as we know, only a few humans even know of their existence. Sometime before the fall of Reach, ONI somehow found out about them, and then during the fall of Reach, an unknown human who was intent on finding out ONI's secrets managed to hack into ONI's databases and save the records of the Assembly to all of his personal datapads, which Noble 6 then found scattered all over Reach. This unknown human left a bunch of really erratic and neurotic messages on the datapads, which suggested that learning such reality-changing truths about humanity's existence as a species sent him insane. And you're going to find out why these truths would send somebody insane later on in the video. The group's role is to regulate the activity of AI, while also ensuring the continued survival of humanity, all without the human race even knowing of their existence. They often regard themselves as the shepherds of the human flock, and they exist to ensure that humanity travel down the right path as a species. Within the Assembly are a bunch of separate groups with different goals. There's a group called the Majority, of whom want to remain completely hidden from humanity's knowledge, and then there's also the Minority, of whom want to intervene more directly and openly to help guide humanity down the right path. There's also a group called the Committee of Minds for Security, a group built to protect humanity from extrasolar alien races. So, much like many modern Illuminati conspiracy theories, the Assembly essentially control humanity from the shadows, manipulating our actions to drive us down a specific path of which they deem to be the right one. But what have the Assembly done and intervened in to change our course as a species? Well, one of the earliest documented things that they did was attempt to prepare humanity for contact with extraterrestrial life in the 24th century. They created multiple different plans of action for the first contact, under the assumption that the aliens would be hostile, but after deciding that humanity were too reluctant and stubborn to accept outside help, they realised their work would be much better done in secrecy. It was at this point where the Assembly decided to begin manipulating humanity from the shadows, implanting their own ideas onto them, making them seem like their own. Sometime later, in the 25th century, the Assembly debated offering themselves to humanity to try and help catalyse their advancement as a species, with one mind noting that doing so could help reignite new interest in the Orion project, something that will be entirely necessary for the upcoming insurrection, which was something that the Assembly knew was just around the corner. After its restarting and then subsequent shutdown, they noted how Orion was only the beginning of something much, much greater, which is obviously referring to the Spartan program. They also chose to exclude the planet Onyx from human colonization, because the foreign attack in the world was deemed way too advanced for humanity to experience, at least yet. But the Human Covenant War in the early to mid 26th century is where the Assembly really began to intervene, and not always in a good way. Before humanity's first contact with the Covenant on Harvest in 2525, a mind within the Assembly attempted to make first contact with the Covenant, which was likely partly responsible for leading them to Harvest, and ultimately deeming humans an obstacle between them and their transcendence to become gods. This mind, which was ultimately indirectly responsible for the entire Human Covenant War, was later tried in a tribunal held by the other minds, and they seemingly learned from this bad mistake, because later when they encountered the Flood on the Shield world that Halo Wars 1 was set in, they decided to leave it alone and not make contact, likely in fear of drawing its attention to humanity, just like they did with the Covenant, except this time, the effects would have been far, far worse. Along with meddling with the UNSC militaries and indirectly controlling their actions and missions during the war, the Assembly also theorized about the existence of a Covenant version of themselves, and many minds believe that they should try and make contact with them, to at least try and make them defect to their side and ensure humanity's survival as a species, but the existence of such a body was never confirmed. Later in the war, decisions were made by the Assembly to sacrifice lower population human colonies to the Covenant to try and figure out their strategies and create counters to them to feed to humanity, and then later, when discussing the sheer loss of life during the war, they came to an almost unanimous decision that they needed to be more open to humanity about their actions to avoid such a massive loss of life happening again. But in 2552, the Assembly changed. They were almost reborn. When Chief and Cortana first formed their neural link aboard the Pillar of Autumn, the Assembly saw this as their call to action to play a more active role in the war, as if they'd almost been drafted to serve in it, as this newly formed connection between humans and artificial intelligence supposedly meant they'd been remade as one with their creators. It was here where they no longer chose to act as humanity's shepherds, and instead, they set in motion a plan that would take years to implement, at the end of which they would become humanity's equal companions. Now, we don't know if this plan has been fully implemented yet, but if by become humanity's equal counterparts, they mean to almost become human again, then Cortana gaining her physical form at the end of Halo 5 can't be ignored, and surely the two are linked in some degree, but even if not, the AI uprising that happens at the end of Halo 5, for better or worse, surely has something to do with the Assembly. The two are way too similar, but I guess only time will tell. Nevertheless, the Assembly are by far the closest thing we have to the Illuminati in Halo. They're like the puppeteers, puppeteering humanity from the shadows, controlling our society, guiding our military action, and manipulating our advancement as a species. But unlike many Illuminati conspiracy theories, they seem to be doing this to ensure our species' safety. Even so, the idea that the Human Covenant War, the Orion Project, the Spartan Program, and maybe even the Created Uprising are all caused by a mysterious, secret society of AIs is quite creepy. And as for the Assembly themselves, when were they even created? Considering they're likely human smart AIs, they must have been made by humans at some point, but their ability to know and prepare for future events, like with the insurrection, makes me think they're created sometime in the distant future, and they were sent back in time to ensure humanity's survival, Terminator style. And also, where the hell actually are they? Are they on Earth somewhere? Are they on a human colony? On a Halo ring? The Ark? An entirely different galaxy altogether? We really have no idea at all, but just like Illuminati conspiracy theories, the more you talk about them, the more questions you raise and possibilities you think of. So let me know your thoughts and theories about the Assembly in the comments. If you think you have an answer to any of the questions that I raised in this video, then leave them in the comments. Halo honestly has some of the wildest conspiracy theories, and trying to figure out the truth behind them is always fun. Unless, of course, you try and figure out the truth behind some of the stuff that Oni have done. Then it's quite the opposite of fun. That is, if you get caught. Oh yeah, also, by very popular demand, new Oni video next week. So I want to give a big thank you, as per usual, to TheArdentPrayer, Tomahawk, Chris G, Jack Madden, and Stefan Curcic, along with everybody else for the hugely generous support over on Patreon. Also, thank you to everybody watching for the absolutely mad support recently, especially on all of these sort of conspiracy theory style videos. I'm having an absolute ball making them, so I hope you guys continue to love and support them like you are doing now. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.